wanna fuck, coming late, mine. Smashing on the cup, on the floor, down. What?
What's good, gang? It's Salas. I'm back on the video. People are easy. People are easily impressed. People are easily manipulated. People are easily entertained, especially nowadays. With like everything that's going on society-wise, everything that's going on in our current reality, which I also do not think is real. I believe right now we're living in like a hyper reality. You know, you have that typical 9 to 5. You know, everybody's kind of like going in and out of work. Everybody's kind of following the system of capitalism. Everybody's kind of following the systems that they're born into. Everybody's just kind of living as a circumstance in their environment instead of being a factor of their environment. There's so many things that humans just allow themselves to eat up, right? Like, there's so many things that we are just entertained by. And I think that we are really escaping versions of ourselves that hold our identities more accountable than we like to believe they could be held accountable. I think there's times where, in the grand scheme of things, we know that we're called to do something higher internally, but there's these obligations that come with that realization. There's these things you can't escape once you understand that you're much more than you've made yourself to believe you are and always will be. There's always that second guessing or that hesitance to step into what could be because you're so conformative to what is, especially internally, right? Like, there were so many stories I fed myself about myself now, believing myself to always be a victim of procrastination, to always be a victim to not believing in myself, not wanting to push myself to believe in myself, always falling victim to this idea that my circumstances and my environment were what caused me to be inconsistent or what caused me to not have a true drive to pursue my passions, right? Like, believing that I didn't have the right support system or like all these excuses that you make up. And I think on top of running away from who you could be, I think you're also running away from the idea that your reality isn't something that you can change, that it's not tangible based on perception. And I believe that our reality, even the hyper reality, is much more malleable than we like to believe it is, right? I made the video about Love Island. You have all these amusement parks, all these things that we consume, and we just call it entertainment. We call it entertainment because it's something that makes us laugh, something that takes away the mundanity of our jobs, of our lives that we make mundane, right? I mean, nothing seems more mundane than a 9 to 5 life, but when you really look at it in the grand scheme of things, most people just clock in their 9 to 5, clock out, and doom scroll until they go to bed and wake up and do it all over again. Nobody has daily goals. I'm not going to say nobody. Some people just don't have the drive to pursue something greater. And that's fine. If you enjoy the mundanity of life and you enjoy what you believe this reality is, it's perfectly fine. But I think for those that I'm really speaking to, those who are really understanding what I'm saying, who have an alternative perspective of what they'd like to believe, I think that in the grand scheme of what we believe reality is, we know that our realities are tangible, but they're also malleable. They're also made of like plastic. They're so like slime. They're so like easily carved into something else depending on how we perceive it. Like, how many ideas have you soaked up about what you think is that have changed so many things you look at, changed so many things about what you think is going on and what you think is in your control, what you realize is in your control. And it's not scary to evolve. I think it's scary to understand that there is no de-evolution after evolving, at least in my opinion. I think what's scarier about understanding that your perception is what changes your reality is that you know that there's people who will never perceive reality the way you do. There's people who, once it clicked for you, it will never click for them. And you kind of know that based on how long you've been around them, based on how long y'all been friends or acquaintances or whatever. Like, you understand there's this idea, there's this rather fact that you're losing people. You're going to lose people who truly don't want to understand more. They'd rather just eat up what's given to them. Like, it's like we're all going through a lunch line and we're just given these meals, this entertainment, these consumer products, all these things that keep us full for the time being. And we believe that this is nutrition. We believe this is adequate for ourselves to digest. But in all actuality, it's probably some of the worst things you could consume, especially in reference to yourself, especially in reference to the idea of growing into something more than what you believe yourself to be, or what you're consuming is making you believe you are, or what you have to be. Like, that's why we have all these distractions. I feel like there's so many things that like distract us from who we really could be, who we really are. Like all these labels, like all these things that really don't matter. And I think, ironically, there's so many people who actually enjoy these labels, because these labels act as defining factors of their identities, right? Like they can't imagine themselves not being without labels. They can't imagine themselves being so malleable to the point where any comment they allow themselves to believe is the truth could change them forever. And it's a scary thought, because then you become responsible for these thoughts that are without labels. You become responsible for them. They're objective based on how you choose to make them, right? They're objective or they're subject. Like, there's so many things that no longer apply to the laws of who you think you were once you remove the labels. Once you realize that your circumstance and who you think you have to be no longer matter, and it's only up to you what you decide, it changes everything. It scares the hell out of you, because now you're fully responsible for who you think you are. There is no other way to look at it. Once you remove the labels, the definitions other people have given you, you are now responsible for writing the definition of who you are. And that's scary, because you can write down anything and nobody can tell you it's wrong. Nobody can change it but you. And you get to decide if you get to live by it or not. And if you live by nothing, you'll die by anything. And that's a scary thought to digest. It's terrifying. To be fully in control of who you think you are is terrifying, because you have nobody to blame. There's no excuses no more. So every failure feels like permanence. Every success feels like permanence. Everything feels permanent, because now it's not, well, once this person leaves, then that's no longer going to happen. Once this changes, that's no longer going to be a part of my life. Now it's, oh, I did that to myself. Yes, you did. But in the face of that fear, there's this freedom too. There's this idea of carving yourself into something more. And I think in order to relieve themselves of that responsibility, people are easy. They just take the easiest route. They take the most impressionable route, consuming everything that's on their For You page and liking it, allowing the algorithm to control what they consume, allowing capitalism to control what they buy, allowing what they buy to control how they feel about themselves. Like, all these little things. Like, there is really, in my opinion, that for some people, there is no freedom of expression. And if there is, the only thing they're expressing is what they're choosing to consume. You don't know who you are. You've consumed ideas of who you thought you are. You've consumed ideas of who you think you have to be. These stereotypes and these archetypes we abide by, these roles we abide by based on gender and race, all these things are just fluff. It's fluff for a pillow of conformity. It's fluff for a pillow of complacency that we all choose to lay our heads down on at some point. Or, I'm not going to say all, some of us do, right? And I think that ultimately it's up to us to decide if we're going to continue to sleep in that bed of complacency and conformity with that fluffy pillow. Or are we going to move to the hard ground of reality and build something from the ground up that we're more comfortable in than we ever would have been if we stayed in that bed? It's very terrifying. It's a very scary idea, but I think moving in tandem with the idea that you can take responsibility for who you think you are and not being so easily impressed, so easily entertained, is the best route you can go. It's the right route, in my opinion, to figure out who you are outside of what other people tell you you are. Everything you ever consumed is made by somebody else. Every rule or stipulation you came up in your own head came from something you consumed from somebody else. Nobody told you that. You chose to believe that. That is something you consumed and you interpreted. Everything inherently is neutral. Nothing is about you. Everything you ever consumed in your entire life that you've made personal was interpreted by you. Take that same script that you're writing to define yourself and rewrite it. Watch how everything around you changes as a result. In the process of rewriting your script, you're gonna come across, at least in my opinion, like, because I'm going through this as well. It's this change that you're going through, right? So the script no longer abides by what it once did. So you can't run the same scenes over and over again anymore. So now these new scenes are being filmed, right? And if you don't know how movies are being filmed, because I don't either, but I imagine there's this complicated process behind the camera where everybody's setting up everything just right before the action starts, and all these little lights are being changed. The sound design's being messed with a little bit. This actor has to go back here. This background actor has to move their foot this way. All these little complicated things, right? And then the action. But you're no longer abiding by that anymore because everything doesn't abide by what you once thought it did. So now you get to change how all that works. And you have to kind of have this harsh ego to combat these questions of who do you think you are? Why are you talking like that? Why are you walking like that? You never dressed like that before. Why'd you change your hair? Why'd you get that haircut? You've never done that before. You've never talked like that before. Since when you start listening to that type of music, you've never read books. You've never. All these people start questioning you because they know they're gonna miss you once you change. They question you because they know once you get to that other side, there's no coming back, and they're gonna miss you. They're gonna miss you. They're gonna miss you bad because even though you could be in the same room as them, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, like you're on a whole nother level, and they know that, and that's terrifying in them because once they miss you, they'll miss out on what you're gonna become. Like you're gonna miss out on all that. That whole process is just they're just completely separate from you. They have to watch from afar, and they don't want to be an audience member. They could be a cast member. Nobody wants to be a part of the audience when they know a movie is being filmed, especially the people that crave the spotlight for validation. Nobody wants to be an audience member. Everybody wants to be a part of that film crew somehow, some way. Everybody wants to take credit somehow, some way. But when they can't, they start to question. They start to throw rocks at it because they're like, no way this is real. No way no way this person's becoming who they thought they could. No way. You want to be a what? Man, if you don't stick to that little 9 to 5, all these things that people throw at you, right? You have to create this ego. But I can feel myself internally getting to a place now where the ego is kind of like quieting. It's taming itself. I don't really have to do anything. It's just I automatically don't swallow the pills that the ego is trying to feed me, trying to combat everything. I just let things happen. I just let it happen. I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna, no, I don't have to deal with that. I don't. I'm just letting it sit, letting it happen because there is no response that I don't have to tolerate. There is no response that I have to tolerate. I can do whatever I want. And the funny part is that people around you, when they realize that you realize that, they get so scared because that control factor is taken away from them, and then the ego isn't responding to them, and they're like, well, what am I if I can't control you? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Well, who are you? I don't know. You tell me. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go do this regardless. You can figure out who I am for yourself. Let your reality shape itself. I don't have no opinion of who I think I am. You can form the opinion of who you think I am, and have to sit with that choice. Because now you're not trying to control their script. They can't make a narrative based on what you're trying to do to control their script. Now they're stuck with trying to define who you are without evidence of thinking that you're somebody else that you wish you could be. Now they're just stuck with it. They're stuck with all these things. And I think people who are easy like that, funny enough, are the audience members. They're the funniest people to watch react because they are going to suck up everything you do. They can't interpret it because you're not trying to change them or force them to interpret anything. Because mind you, these consumers of a hyper reality have been told what the reality is their whole life. And if you're one of the factors in their life that's not giving them a definition of what they're watching or consuming, they have to learn to interpret you on their own. And that's scary. Because like I said before, when you're in control of your own reality and you have the choice to shape it as you please, that's a terrifying thought. Wait, I get to make up my own rules? Well, who's to blame if the rules don't suit me? You are. And that's scary for a lot of people, especially the easy ones. But hey, man, you already know what I'm about to say. That's just me, though.